shout out to my people. Green, silver, black, and white, always repping for my Eagles. Hey, welcome to the podcast, we gon' keep it real. Get it hype when the team stepping on the field. We all we got, we all we need. Philadelphia Eagles, lock in with me. It's a Philly thing, you ready? Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Listen, this is going to be another episode of the NFC East Division Review, except this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are not talking about the Dallas Cowboys. We are talking about the New York Football Giants. Now, listen, this is a team last year that didn't have the greatest record by any means, but it was a football team that wasn't a lot of one-score games. It was a football team that ended up splitting, geez Louise, talk much, splitting with the Philadelphia Eagles in their NFC East divisional matchup. On that Thursday night football game, they kicked our teeth in with walking CTE himself, Cam Scatterbo, and the physical presence of Jackson Dart, who was running roughshod on that team, and the terrible play of Jalen Hurts on that night, and the Philadelphia Eagles for that matter. But nonetheless, they split with us last season, and it's a team that constantly gets disrespected, I think, in my opinion, by a lot of Eagle fans when they really shouldn't. There's a lot of talent on this New York Giants football team that they've brought in, and some talent on the defensive side of the ball that I actually really, really like. And now they got a new coach. They got a lot of things going on in the New York Football Giants land that you could look at and say, you know what? It's a step in the right direction. And that's exactly where they are right now. They are rebuilding, but you know what? Don't be surprised if they win 7 to 9 ball games based on the changes that they made with head coach and all that jazz. So, without further ado, let's just get right into the NFC East divisional review. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles in just a second, but let's talk about the New York Football Giants, starting with some of the skill positions on the offensive side of the ball. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the New York Giants offensive lineup here. Starting with quarterback Jackson Dart, who had a pretty good rookie campaign last season, had 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, not to mention his acquisition on the ground here. He was a guy, when on the field, really gave a lot of teams problems because of his wheels. And again, I'm not much of a guy who believes in his ability to throw the football. However, when he's on the field, the New York Giants played with a lot of energy, a lot of juice, and they love this kid. Like, everyone on the team gets a little bit more confidence when he's on the field. So, that's a big part of why there's a lot of excitement with this young offense. Now, not just Jackson Dart, but walking CTE, Cam Scatterbo himself is in the building at running back, along with Tyron Tracy, who's a good player. Malik Neighbors is there, elite wide receiver 1. Now, I know he's got a knee injury, and he had some cleanup surgery for the ACL due to scar tissue, so he's not going to be fully ready until towards the back end of the season, so that could be problematic for them. But Darnell Mooney's an upgrade. They have Isaiah Hodgins. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson, I believe, who was a 1,000-yard receiver for them. I liked him as a player, but nonetheless, they got him, Hodgins, Malik Neighbors, some good players there, and Darius Slayton still there, longtime Giant. So, and Odell Beckham is also in the building as well. They brought him back for sentimental reasons. And then Isaiah Likely and Theo Johnson are your other tight ends in the building here. Now, it's not just the improvement in the skill room here with Isaiah Likely, Darnell Mooney, Malik Neighbors coming back, Cam Scatterbo coming back, right? It's not just an improvement of those guys. It's the improvement in the coaching staff here. And really, head coach John Harbaugh being a grown-up is a big deal for the New York Giants. You got offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, a guy who's called plays for a long time in this league. I actually like Matt Nagy. I would have loved for him to be in Philadelphia myself, but nonetheless, he's with the New York Giants with a dual threat guy who, again, if any of you remember, as most Eagle fans know, the double doink game was against the Chicago Bears. Matt Nagy was the head coach of those Chicago Bears. Mitch Trubisky was quarterback, a dual threat guy. So a lot of similar characteristics in terms of Mitch Trubisky and Jackson Dart. Not to mention senior offensive assistant Greg Roman. And I normally don't highlight assistants, but Greg Roman in particular is a guy who, one, I wanted Philadelphia to hire as offensive coordinator to be the guy to build an offense for Jalen Hurts. One, it would have been some sort of consistency for the quarterback. No one was going to hire him as a head coach. He would have been a perfect fit for running the ball and being a ground and pound type of team. That's neither here nor there. But I highlight him particularly because Jackson Dart, paired with Matt Nagy and Greg Roman, is going to get an improvement in not only coaching, but you're going to see an improvement in his play. Lamar Jackson was MVP with Greg Roman. And one of the things that Greg Roman did for Lamar Jackson was design an offense where he utilized his legs in order to be a threat on the ground and get yardage and get big chunk yardage too. Like they would have a lot of quarterback designed runs. Now, you can look at it and say, oh, Jackson Dart, he's already going to be a guy that's going to get the ball and be a quarterback designed runner and scramble and stuff. However, Jackson Dart doesn't know how to frickin' slide. That's his problem. He doesn't know how to slide. And because he doesn't know how to slide, Greg Roman being in the building, one of his specialties with Lamar Jackson, he would design quarterback runs that would eventually just go out of bounds. The blocking scheme would dictate he attack the sidelines and go up the field, and when he's about to get hit, either fall down or slip out of bounds. That's what Greg Roman did. And with that, I don't remember a lot of the times Lamar Jackson being hurt via injury with Greg Roman in the building until the very, very end of his tenure. That's an important factor because when Jackson Dart's in the building, the New York Giants are a problem. And with Matt Nagy, a dual threat offensive designer, and Greg Roman as an assistant, the tutelage that he's going to get is a big deal, which makes the New York Giants that much more of a problem for teams who play them. Now, listen, they got a really tough schedule, so I don't anticipate them being a team that's going to win a lot of football games, but I don't think there's any team on this schedule that looks and says, wow, we got the New York Giants. That's an easy dub. Nuh-uh. No way. They weren't that last season. They're not going to be that now. You may not see a lot of wins for this football team, but what you're going to see is a team that's really, really tough and not going to be an easy out for anybody who plays them. And there's skill improvement here in terms of the guys in their room, their coaching staff, all big upgrades. However, they're not going to win a lot of games, number one, because I just don't think their schedule will dictate that. But two, it's because they have not been able to figure out one key position group, and that's the offensive line. My question here is, have they finally got it? Have they finally figured out the right group of guys for the offensive line? Now, on paper, you look at it and you say, this is an upgrade. Jeez Louise. Excuse me. Andrew Thomas, elite left tackle. Top 5 in the game. They got that one right. No doubt about it. John Runyon here, good player. Not a guy to sneeze at by any means. He's not a liability per se, at least in my opinion. For the very little that I know about the New York Football Giants, I don't believe he's a liability. Michael Schmitz, their center, another good, solid player. He's been there for a couple of years. Again, not a liability per se. They drafted this young man, Mr. Francis Maugoa. Again, I hope I got the name right. If I didn't get the name right, please let me know in the comments section below. Give me the phonetic spelling, why don't you? But nonetheless, I like this kid. This kid can play. If somehow the Philadelphia Eagles were lucky enough to somehow be in a position to get this guy, I would have loved for him to be in the building. He's a good football player, an upgrade at right guard, can also service as a tackle if need be. And then I don't know this young man's name, Alou Manor. Again, I will figure out how to get the pronunciation of these guys' names at some point. But Jermaine Alou Manor, if he doesn't have a good season, they're going to call him Alou Manor. Again, really not much to say about the offensive line other than Can these guys get it freaking right? Are these the guys that will finally get the New York Giants to have some semblance of an offensive line and just have some respectability in the building in terms of being a functioning offense? That's the key. If these guys up front play really good, or I shouldn't say really good, if they're not a bottom tier offensive line, if they're ranked like 20th or above, the New York Football Giants might make some noise. Because they got a lot of talent on not only the offensive side of the ball, but they got some talent on the defensive side of the ball. And that's the transition we're going to be making right now. Checking out the New York Giants defensive lineup here, this is probably one of my more favorite position groups in the NFC East. I love what the New York Giants have done on this defensive line. I love what they have done with their front seven. I think it's as good as anybody in the NFC East. Shelby Harris, veteran player, really solid, been a part of some really good defenses in his career with the Denver Broncos and the Cleveland Browns. DJ Reader, again, another good player, was part of the Detroit Lions last season, a veteran player, bringing in a grown-up in the building, which is paired with Darius Alexander, who was a draft pick they took last season. I thought he played pretty well for a rookie. And then Brian Burns, elite. Kayvon Thibodeau went on the field, really good player. He just has an injury history and always is in trade talk. But again, I don't think the New York Giants are going to do anything with him, at least for the first few weeks of the season. We'll see how he kind of gets paired with Arvell Reese and whether other guys get injured or whatnot. But this defensive front, coupled with Denard Wilson, who was the coordinator for the Tennessee Titans last season, former Philadelphia Eagles defensive backs coach. I love Denard Wilson. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator, really good defensive mind. He's a guy that is just a good damn coach. So being paired with talent like this, I think is going to be an upgrade for him. Defensive line coach Dennis Johnson comes from the Baltimore Ravens. And if we know anything about the Baltimore Ravens last season, their defensive line was actually not terrible. Okay. Some good players. He had a lot of guys on the defensive line that played well. So bringing in a coach that has coached a good unit before, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt here. So an upgrade in terms of defensive line coach here. And then Addison Lynch, we'll talk about him in just a moment. This person individually was part of the Denver Broncos defensive backs room last season. And we know the Denver Broncos got an elite defensive back room. So a quality coach here. So this defensive line, there's really not many questions on this defensive line. I think the talent speaks for itself. I think the veteran presence speaks for itself. Like I said, if the New York Giants have a lead, good luck blocking these guys. Genuinely good luck blocking these guys. Because it's not just them that's going to be getting after the quarterback. It's the next level, the linebackers, the second level of defenders here, which we're going to talk about right now in just a moment. Arvell Reese was the draft pick that they took in the first round. Tremaine Edmonds, part of the Chicago Bears, a good athletic linebacker here. McFadden, again, a young player. I don't know if he's going to see the field all that much. Abdul Carter here. He was another first-round draft pick last season, number 2 overall pick, right? And then on the defensive side of the ball there's this young man in terms of just has a this young man, Jack Kelly, the linebacker. He's kind of the Cam Scatterbo of the New York Giants. He's just the guy who's for the linebacker room is just a character, and you kind of need somebody who's a little bit nutty on the back end, who's a little bit nutty in the linebacker room. He's that guy. Okay, I think he's a young undrafted rookie free agent, if I'm not mistaken. And if it's not an undrafted rookie free agent, it's a very low end pick that they took a chance on this guy. When you're a team that's building a culture, you need a couple of character guys who are a little bit on the I don't want to say on the spectrum, but a little bit on the nutty side. Jack Kelly's that guy. Literally the perfect type of player to be a linebacker. Gets downhill, loves to hit. He's going to be a guy, probably a special teamer if I had to take a guess for them. He's a good presence to have. Now, again, this is not necessarily the lineup that you look at and you say, wow, there's a lot of talent here. But Arvell Reese got some talent here. He's got some game. Abdul Carter, we know, can play. Tremaine Edmonds, a veteran in this league, has done this for a long time. If you couple that with the defensive line that they got on the front five here that you saw before, and by before I'm talking about these guys here, these two groups of defenders here make the New York Giants a little bit more appeasing for a guy like Denard Wilson and a guy like John Harbaugh, quite frankly, because in a division like the NFC East, as long as you can be in a ball game, and I mean in a ball game by like 2-3 points, you have a chance to win anything, right? And in the NFC East, it's always close no matter what. Like there's never been a blowout NFC East game unless it's like, the Eagles finally wake up and take care of business against the Giants, for example. But all these games come down to the wire. I think almost all the teams outside of Dallas maybe split with each other for the most part. So I know we split with them, so I'm not going to sneeze at the New York Giants. So point being is, I'm digressing and I'm kind of going on a tangent here. Point being is, these linebackers, coupled with the defensive line, it's a good group of guys here to come after the new year. Which now leads me to the back end of the group here. This is probably, the lesser of talents here. And we talked about this before. Not enough talent for this division with the linebacker core for sure. But on the defensive backside, again, not necessarily guys who you look at and you're saying, wow, immense amount of talent. But there's some guys here who can play. Paulson Adebo, guy can play. Drew Phillips, not a bad player by any means. Greg Newsome comes from the Jacksonville Jaguars, was a high pedigree guy. He can come in and bring you an upgrade in terms of defensive back play. Javon Holland, I like his game. I think he's pretty good. And then this young man, Mr. Nubin's first name, it escapes me at the moment. Tyler Nubin, excuse me. Tyler Nubin, again, a solid safety. So the back end of this group here, with Denard Wilson, who has the defensive backs history as coordinator and coach, and then Addison Lynch, we talked about before, was part of the Denver Broncos back end group, was a part of the coaching staff of the defensive backs coach. Coupled with young players like this and a front seven like that, this defense could do a lot of damage in the NFC East. So there's some upside here. Not necessarily talent that you look at and you're thinking to yourself, wow, they have all these players here. It's the collection of guys. It's the collection and the coaching staff that makes this part and makes all of these things work together like a cog and like a machine that it's supposed to be. This is going to be a defensive group where maybe the team rankings are not going to look like it's top of the line in the NFL, but it's a defensive group that you're going to look at and you say, well, damn, I don't want to have anything to do with the New York Giants week in and week out. It's a good group of guys. It's young players who seem to be excited about some of the changes that have been made. And because you got a new group of coaches who's going to bring in some discipline, some grown-up type of feeling, it's not going to be Brian Dable's, fiasco type of environment here. It's going to be some, hey, this is John Harbaugh. We're running a new program here. You're going to get in line or you better freaking square the hell up or you're going to be off the team. All of a sudden, you got guys who are going to look at it and say, you know what? I'm glad we have a football coach that's like this. I think there's going to be accountability with the New York Giants. And because of that, they're going to give a lot of teams problems for us going forward. Now, with that being said, we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? And the Philadelphia Eagles, now again, I look at the talent on that team, and I just think we're better. Flat out just better than the New York Giants, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to sweep the New York Giants, okay? We thought that last season. We thought we can go into the field with more talent and just beat the New York Giants, and we played like shit. And they kicked our ass, and they made us pay for it. So, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, we're going to look at this just in terms of an overall macro. I'm not going to go super crazy in the lineups here, but we are going to look at the position groups. We're going to look at the talent, and we're just going to say, quite frankly, we're just better than the New York Giants. Without further ado, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles really quick to round out this episode. Like I said, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles starting lineup here. We already know the deal here with Jalen Hurts as quarterback, who was, quite frankly, disrespected on a recent quarterback list. We'll talk about that in another episode at another time. But Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP, starting quarterback, again, has some things to work on and has a lot to prove this season, I believe. He's starting quarterback. Saquon Barkley had a pretty good year last year in terms of numbers, but everybody thought he was a little underwhelming, as I think so myself. Devontae Smith taking on wide receiver 1 for the first time since his rookie year. Mekhi Lemon, Dontavian Wicks is going to be wide receiver 2/3. And then Dallas Goedert in the building. With the new offensive scheme that we got with Sean Mannion and all these other guys here, will he be more of a feature in the offense? I think if Dallas Goedert is a feature in this offense, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be cooking with some fire here. I am not going to lie. So now, we already know, in terms of talent, on paper, we know that in terms of Jackson Dart or Jalen Hurts, I would take Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Saquon Barkley versus Cam Scadaboo and Chiron Tracy as a duo. Again, Saquon Barkley in a vacuum is a better football player than those guys, but Cam Scadaboo did give us the business the last time I saw him on Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. Physical presence will run through you. Not necessarily the reputation that Saquon Barkley has. He's a guy that's going to kind of make you miss and be a menace in open field. Cam Scadaboo will just run right through you. That physical presence sometimes can offset a lot of talent that a guy like Saquon Barkley has. Now, it's not going to offset to the point where you look at it and you're like, wow, Cam Scadaboo was on the level of Saquon Barkley. However, if Saquon Barkley's having an off day, an off night, for example, running the ball where he's just not seeing it, sometimes having a physical presence like a Cam Scadaboo offsets that and makes it where the running game is more effective because of his physical prowess, right? So that's going to be one of the questions I think Saquon Barkley has to answer this year. Can he go back to being a guy that averages more than 4.5 yards a carry, which is what this Philadelphia Eagles offense needs him to be? They need him to get closer to the 5 yards a carry mark in order for this offense to be more efficient. Devontae Smith and Malik Neighbors, again, Eagle fans are going to tell you Smitty's elite. Smitty's got one wide receiver 1 type of ability. I don't disagree. However, he hasn't done it at the level that Malik Neighbors has done it. So, in a vacuum, you got to look at Malik Neighbors as the better player. But since he's hurt, since he's not coming off of a good year because of injury, Devontae Smith coming off a year where he was budding with A.J. Brown in terms of being wide receiver 1. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. Again, 1,100 to 1,200 yards is where I predict he's going to be at. He's going to be featured in this offense, and he's going to be moved around in a lot of different ways, I think, which I think is going to bode well for him. And then you got guys like Mekhi Lemon and Dontavian Wicks. Again, Dontavian Wicks has been there, done that before. Mekhi Lemon was the first-round pick that we took. People seem to like him. Has a little bit of an injury bug with the hamstring thing going on right now. But will he be a guy that's just serviceable? I'm looking for him to be about 400 to 500 yards of receiving. I think that's going to be a good rookie campaign for him. I don't think we're going to try to go ahead and throw the ball all over the yard. I think he's just going to be a guy that's going to help us move the chains a little bit, be a guy that gets 40 or 50 catches for about 500 yards. That's kind of where I would expect him to be. And if he does that, I think he got a pretty good rookie campaign for Mekhi Lemon. And then Dallas Goedert, I think, is going to be a guy that's going to have the biggest uptick in terms of his production on the field. In terms of offensive line play, we just know the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line has been the complete opposite of the New York Giants. We've never really had a lot of issues up front. Even last season, yeah, they didn't play great last year, but it wasn't awful. It was still a top 10, top 12 offensive line in all of football. As much to the chagrin as much of many Eagle fans believe, the offensive line was not terrible. And this season, they're coming in refreshed. They're coming in with a little bit more excitement because they have a new scheme that they're going to be learning. Lane Johnson's going to have some help in terms of blocking guys, not being one-on-one all the time. Same with Jordan Mailata. I think that's going to be something that's a little bit interesting and different for them. The run scheme's going to be a little bit different for them. So this might be something that's a little bit of a refresher for this offensive lineman group. And we'll see what Chris Cooper does with this group of guys up front, because we know we had Jeff Stoutland before. Now we got Chris Cooper. We got a new scheme here. Now, if these guys are healthy, this offense is going to take off. If these guys are hurt, we already know what it's going to be like, and it's the same for the New York Giants because they have some talent on the offensive line. If those guys are healthy, this offense is going to be good. If they're not, they're going to stink. This offensive line's no different. If these guys are healthy, we're going to have a really good offense. Let's transition now to the defensive side of the ball. Like I said, this is going to be pretty quick because we already know the Philadelphia Eagles are just a better football team overall. But in terms of the defensive line, I talked about it before. It's as good as any in the NFC East in terms of the New York Giants. The Philadelphia Eagles, let me ask you, would you rather have a guy like Arvell Reese or Nolan Smith? Again, I like Arvell Reese's upside. If you want to give the nod to Nolan Smith, fine, but it's not necessarily, oh, Nolan Smith is here and Arvell Reese is here. You don't know that. It could be that way by the end of the year, but Nolan Smith has also got some things to prove. Jalen Carter, again, immense talent. The problem is he's a little bit of a knucklehead, and he's going into a contract year. He's got some shoulder injuries that he has to work through, and we don't know what he's going to be like this season. Wasn't really good against the run last year due to injury, but you were on the field, so I'm not going to give you the excuse. Along with Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo, the question becomes, will this guy be somebody that you want to invest in long term, or do you want to continuously put him in trade talks as he's been these past few years? Philadelphia has been trying to get Jalen Carter on trades for elite players, yes, but he's constantly in trade talks. So, again, I love his talent. I think they really believe in the guy's ability to play football. However, he's a little bit of a knucklehead. And because you're a knucklehead, you're going to get in these trade talks with other teams, and they're always going to throw his name out there. They threw it in for Micah Parsons. Yes, a much better player, an elite player. They threw it in for Max Crosby. They threw it in for Myles Garrett. They threw it in for a lot of guys who were meant to be elite players on the defensive lineup. Jalen Carter, again, has all the talent in the world, entering a big contract year. Didn't come off his best season. Drew Rosenhaus as an agent is going to be somebody that's going to make it a little bit tougher for Philadelphia to be able to make this contract signing very, very clean. So could that disrupt the talent? Could that disrupt the ability for this defensive line to play the way we believe they can play? Because we believe, as Eagle fans, this defense is going to be a top 5 unit in football. We anticipate that with Vic Fangio, Clinton Hurd, Bobby King, and new defensive backs coach Mike Pellegrino, plus the talent here. Jordan Davis, we believe, is going to be taking another step forward. Moro Jomo, same thing. Byron Younger, Ty Robinson, whoever is going to be that guy as a rotational piece, they believe he's going to come into the building and make some noise. Again, whatever the case may be, the point being is this defensive line versus the Giants defensive line, it's a toss-up. In terms of talent, okay? They have an elite player in Brian Burns, Can you say we have an elite established player on this defensive line? No. Jalen Carter is elite by talent. Is he elite by production? Not like Brian Burns. Brian Burns is elite across the NFL. Jalen Carter has elite talent. Really, really good player, elite talent. Let's look at the linebackers now. Jalix Hunt, immense talent. I thought he was one of the best players on the field last season for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's going to continue to ascend. Will probably be a better football player than Nolan Smith by the end of the year, if not already. Jihad Campbell coming in to replace Nakobe Dean. I love the fact that we're pairing him with Zach Bond, who's just been exceptional in Philadelphia. I love the linebackers that we got here. Jeremiah Trotter Jr., been there, done that. A young player, an experienced player, a smart player, a guy that everybody loves in Philadelphia. His father was here, smart guy, in practice, just knows where he has to be. Jonathan Grenard is another guy on the on the outside linebacker, has had up and down years due to injury, and we've talked about that in episodes past. But despite all of that, this linebacker room right here, it's just more proven than the New York Giants. They're just better across the board here. Defensive lines are similar. Linebackers is where you see the gap in talent start to take over a little bit more. So I love this linebacker room right now. Vic Fangio with a linebacker coaching background. Bobby King, elite linebacker coach. And then Zach Bond, Jihad Campbell, Jalix Hunt. I mean, these are guys who are just ball players. They're really freaking good. And then lastly, the defensive back room. What can I say? These guys are just the best in best in the NFC East. I mean, I don't think there's really any pushback for anybody who is an Eagle fan, who's a Giant fan, these guys are elite. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, elite. Tariq Woolen, an upgrade from Adoree Jackson. Andrew Makuba, if he stays healthy, good player. Marcus Epps just been there, done that, a smart player in terms of this lineup. So again, when it comes to talent, ladies and gentlemen, the Philadelphia Eagles are just better than the New York Giants. I am not going to sit here, though, and say I dismiss the New York Giants. I think the Giants have done a lot of good things this offseason. I think they're stepping in the right direction. I think a lot of the hires that they've made, really smart. I think the way they're building their football team, really smart. It's going to take a couple of years, but by then you'll have an established culture, and you're going to be a problem for a lot of teams in the NFC East. And a lot of teams on your schedule this season, but you're going to be a problem more so down the line. Okay? So you're going to be in a lot of close ball games if you're a New York Giants fan, and you're going to be at the edge of your seat. And yes, you're going to lose a lot of those games because other teams are just better than you. Yes. But do not take the losses to heart because the Giants are stepping in the right direction. The Philadelphia Eagles are in the process of a rebuild, in my opinion. So are the New York Giants. And because of that, there's more questions around the Philadelphia Eagles than there are the New York Giants due to expectations. So, if you're a Giant fan, enjoy the ride. If you're an Eagle fan, you better hope that this offensive line and this offensive scheme works out for them, because if we don't take care of business, the New York Giants are right on our tail in terms of being able to not only split games with us consistently in the NFC East, but maybe could steal a playoff spot if we're not careful. Again, I don't anticipate that this season. I just think the talent is better because the defense is going to be so good for the Philadelphia Eagles. The New York Giants, though, they got talent. They got the right coaches. They got the right guys in the building. They're going to be a problem. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. That is what my thoughts are on regards to the New York Giants versus Philadelphia Eagles in this NFC East division review. I like what they've done in New York. I just don't think they're good enough yet. It might be another year or two before we go ahead and say, this is a team that's going to be a problem, but they're in the right direction, okay? So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that is the episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Shoot this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you back here next time for the next episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Hey, thank you so much for getting through this episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want more content just like this, hit the subscribe button below to lock in with me. Thank you so much for your support on the opposite side of the camera, and check us out on other platforms in the description box below. And we'll see you back here next time for the next episode of the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.